Okay. Okay. So I'm going to think about, I'm going to focus again on what I was focusing on, what was making me not feel good, and I was projecting it onto a person. And the whole time I was trying to figure out in my mind how to let the person go out of my thoughts and let that whole scenario go out of my thoughts, because I recognized that I was feeling fine before, and then after they came in and what's going on with them came into my field, I felt pulled down. and immediately, I realized I wasn't feeling good, and so I thought, well, that's not doing anyone good. So, let them, it's not your responsibility. Let them deal with what's going on for them and allow them their drama, so to speak. And you take care of your vibration, because that's the most important thing always. That's also the only way I can help them, is when I am in a good vibration. When I'm coming from a good vibration. Positive. Harmonious. And it wasn't letting go, and I thought, well, actually, how is it that they have the power to drag me down? So there must be there must be something inside of me that's a handle, that they can dock onto, that whatever is coming from their field, it's triggering some kind of belief within me that's not sitting well with the whole, that's not in harmony with the true life that is here, the soul stream. It's not in harmony with that. So it's coming from egoic mind. Egoic mind that is not aware of itself. Oh, egoic mind cannot be aware of itself. Only mind can become aware of egoic mind programmings. And then these programs lose their power to the truth of the seeing, of the being. Because the being is one, is not separate, and realizes itself as not being separate, knows itself as being connected to all, to life, and to itself. Egoic mind is coming from seeing through there, coming from connection, identification with it, always feels bad because it's rooted in separation. And it's telling a story of separation somehow. So there's always has to be this dichotomy of against. You're either with or you're against. And that only can live within the egoic mind. So then I sat down, and then the question came, well, how do you feel about that person? Let's really track down that feeling. It was the question that came to help me to pinpoint the feeling, to really grasp it. How do you feel about them right now? And the first thought, and this was not from my mind, because in my mind it's like, how is that possible? I don't feel that way about them. But the first thought that came, that described the feeling that I had, was disgust. So, okay, good. So I know I have that was the matching description of that vibration within me. So I know, okay, somewhere within me there's disgust, and of course it's towards myself. And I don't know it. I don't have to know it. If it's helpful to know it, it will reveal itself. But it wasn't about that. It wasn't about going into the details in the story. It was just this vibration of disgust. And so I sat there and felt it. And the other thing I felt was disappointment. And disappointment is always disillusionment. It's always like, oh, that was an illusion. Okay, I was buying into an illusion. The person isn't, I didn't expect that of them. It's something that doesn't fit my image I have of them. And it is disappointing because I've appointed them to a certain way of being, and I realize, well, I guess that's not the case, and there are other factors at play that I'm not aware of, and that I, at this point, cannot comprehend where they're coming from and how come their behavior is like that. So then I realized, well, I reminded myself, that is always a good thing. That is what I'm all about, is to be disillusioned, is to see wherever I am seeing an illusion, and the only illusion that I mean when I say this is the illusion between I'm separate and then the truth, I am not separate. Because that's the only illusion that matters in well-being. And well-being is all that matters to me. Because if I am well, then I see that truly well, like 100, like the whole thing is truly well. And of course it always goes deeper and deeper and deeper, opens into ever greater wellness. But as it opens to deeper layers, of course, then before you come to that sense of deepening your wellness, you will first bump up against the next things in line, the next things within your unconscious that have not been reintegrated into your conscious awareness and into your energy soul stream, into your light body, they are in your body, but if they don't feel good, they're holding themselves apart. They are not consciously at one with your whole body, with your whole system. There's a block there. Blood cannot flow accurately, and it can be in the smallest, most subtle levels. It's happening on an anatomic level, then it's happening on an energetic level. And those are the beginnings of, if this would continue and this would get stronger and stronger, those are the beginnings of not well-being in the body, where the body cannot work at peak performance, and then eventually illness. And as we bring those parts home, by becoming aware of them, allowing them, being open to them, feeling them, realizing this is something inside of me that's been held apart. That's how they heal. They merge back with the whole, and then at some point you feel this well-being again, and it's continuous, and and as you go deeper and deeper, of course, you always have you get more aware, so you get more sensitive to the more subtle, and you also grow in capacity because you grow in consciousness and awareness, and you grow in the capacity to receive it and to not be ridden by it, so that it takes you, it owns you, it controls and moves your focused attention, because you are paying attention to it, seeing the world through that emotion, let's say, of disgust and disappointment. And so it's kind of like you're in this bubble of disgust and disappointment, and all of a sudden the whole story that you have in your mind, wherever you're focused on, is justifying this. And the thing is, you keep feeling worse. That's the thing. The emotion gets greater and greater and greater, and then it becomes anger, and it becomes more and more this like, oh, I got to get rid of this. I don't like this. It like becomes more, I don't like it, and you're pushing it away, and the more you push it away and you don't like it, the stronger it gets, because that's how you're feeding it. You see, that's how you feed. With your anger that you focus on something, and your resistance that you have towards something as you're pushing it away, you're actually feeding it with your energy. And so it becomes greater and greater impact it has on your experience. So when I realized, hey, wait a minute, that's a good thing. I want to be disappointed. It's like kind of, no, I don't. But when I look at it from the understanding of how things work, and this is kind of like being strong, being awake, being in your spiritual muscles. It's not being slack and like, no, I don't want to be disappointed. I just want to have everyone be the way I want them to be. I'd rather have everyone not disappoint me, and quite the contrary, like surprise me positively, and just like have that reinforced all the time. But, and that is not possible as long as there's a match within me. As long as there is something within me that I hold apart where I feel the same way. I feel disappointed about myself. I feel disgusted about myself. And it could be just something I don't even remember. But of course, there's always the imprint comes from the first time. And the first time was in the experience had that great of an impact that it got stuck because it couldn't be processed. And now the system holds on to it, the energy is blocked, and it's in reverse. It's not flowing with the whole. Because it's like, ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that part of myself. Or I don't like that, of course, in the experience. The first time it was like, whatever the experience was like, I don't like this. I don't like this experience. This doesn't feel right. This is yucky. This is disgusting. And then that imprint of whatever we felt in that moment is inside, is held, because it needs to be reconciled, And in that moment, it wasn't reconciled. And in no other moment following it was reconciled either, because in order for reconciliation to happen, which is to embed it and receive it in a greater consciousness, in a greater, more evolved, more matured, more expanded nervous system that can hold literally more current. It's more current. It was more current than could be embedded in that moment when it happened. And the embedding happens with love, because love is perfect. The heart, the way the heart works, it it's like a tornado. Well, it's also a chakra, of course. That's how all chakras work. But this is just about the heart now, because that's where we feel love. Because love, just that energy form through the other chakras, solar plexus, navel, and base, seven in the torso. The other chakras, you wouldn't call it love. You would call it something else. You would describe it differently. You would say, oh, that feels good. It feels relaxed. It feels full. I feel so, like, let's say in the womb or the belly, it's like, it's everything is there. It's so created, so connected. There's a wisdom there. There's a guidance there. I'm not afraid. There's many ways. In the base chakra, it's like, it would be very much like, oh, I feel so safe, so relaxed. In the heart, we say, oh my God, it's just so much love. We call it love, compassion, empathy. Although empathy is already more, you're feeling with another person. It can have many nuances. It doesn't have to just be love. Okay, so this embedding in the heart, what happens is the heart has, that tornado pulls in waves, and everything is vibration. That's clear. Everything has a vibration. And at the bottom of everything is vibration. Because if we look into matter deeper, at some point we don't find matter anymore, but we do find vibration. We do find something. So anyways, vibration, waves. That can be measured by waves. We can see them, waves. There are waves that break. There are waves that destroy each other. And there are waves that are never ending, that are infinite. They don't break. And they can take a breaking wave and embed it perfectly into the whole. And that breaking wave then doesn't break because it finds its part in the whole. Because the truth is that everything has its place in the whole. Every wave has its place in the whole. And it is only the egoic mind that rejects. And it's only through the egoic mind that the heart closes. And the representative of the egoic mind on our, as the universe has 15 dimensions, and our soul expands into ever greater souls that are the soul of the soul of the soul. It's the soul, the monad, the avatar, the rishi. And there are expansions of the soul, expansions of consciousness. And why there are these different, because the soul is on six dimensions. 6 dimensions is the individual soul, and then from 7, 8, 9 is the monad soul. No, wait a minute. Oh gosh, I don't want to have to get my things because I don't want to get into the mind that much. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it real quick. Because it is a nice arch. So, there's this. So the individual soul is, up to 6th dimension. And then from 7 to 9, so 7, 8, 9 is the monad soul. which is the more expanded in consciousness and in light body and in and in perception, then the soul is 7, 8, 9. So from 6 to 7, there is another threshold. I mean, there's another threshold between every single dimension that is mentioned here. You know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every time from 3 to 4, that's a huge threshold that we are traversing now collectively, and so those are the thresholds. But then within the thresholds, every 3 dimensions, there's another greater threshold, as there are always little cycles within greater cycles, and so forth. And so then from the monad soul, the soul of the monad soul is the avatar soul. And then the soul of the avatar is from 10 to 12. And then, okay. And then Rishi is 13 to 15. Okay. Yeah. So I was talking about the heart embedding the waves. I'm going to come back to how I realized, wait a minute, it's a good thing to be disappointed. And yes, so back to when that first imprint happened, we could not process it. We could not reconcile it with our perception, with our mind, with our it closed our hearts. And when our hearts get closed, and it's because we come to this earth, we are born empathic, more or less, because we always have to consider the age of the soul and the maturity of the soul. So the evolutionary stage or level of the soul. So, not every soul is the same. I mean, there's so many differences, huge differences in souls that get incarnated on this planet in this time and space. Huge differences. There are younger ones and they're not as expanded as older ones. They just don't have that much experience, and their light bodies aren't as huge, and so they also have different missions. It's just like very similar to, if you look at children, they will have different interests and different missions or different lifestyle than an adult, than a teenager, than an adult in their 30s, than a person in their 50s, and so forth. It's very, very, very similar to that. And so also the nervous system is a representation of it also differs. The capacity of the nervous system also differs to the soul age. Okay. So when our heart closes, this perfect embeddability of the heart, because the heart is this portal to the one light, the source of all life, and every heart is that portal into that point of singularity, to that 0 point of singularity where all is one and all comes out of that and all is connected to that. All is connected to this one consciousness. And consciousness, it is only the forms and the limitations of consciousness where that shape it. But consciousness itself, pure consciousness itself, is simply, it has no form. It is completely neutral. It is just being, just seeing. And there's no frame of reference. There's absolutely no frame of reference. And that's at the core of, in every life. That's in every life form. That's in every life form, because every life form is conscious to some degree. And at the core of all at the core of consciousness is the unbent light, is the pure light, is the pure consciousness, which is yes, that's the still point. That's the absolute stillness that has no attributes, and that's coming through all forms, all bodies, all life forms. Okay. As our hearts close, because, we come to this earth empathetic. There are differences, how empathetic a child or a baby, a child is. However, we all are empathetic. And through the years, usually we close down more and more and more all of those, all of those channels that are way open, relatively, way open from birth, and then we close them, we shut them down, the older we get, because we have these experiences where, so why do we shut our hearts, for example? Why does that happen, when I don't know, a parent, it happens because the baby is, especially with the mom mostly, it feels like it's one with the mom, and it feels also like it doesn't yet have, the egoic mind is not yet completely formed in a baby, and so it's like it's just seeing, it doesn't really have that so much that that knowing of I am this body, and that's someone else, and it still is in this primordial soup a little bit, and it's just a different dimension, it's a different experience. And however, it is, at the same time, it is empathic completely with the mom. And so when the mom, whatever the mom feels, the child feels. Especially when the mom is in the room and holding the child. The child is, all the emotions working through the mom is also is being streamed, channeled through the child. And as the mom, especially, when the mom to the child, focused on the child, closes down her heart to the child, because she's projecting onto the child, as I talked about before. So as that happens, all the child feels is its heart close, and it's terrifying, because that's the lifeline. And so as we grow older, our heart closes, and there's a story attached to it, and then when our heart closes, it cannot embed those waves that it feels coming from, let's say, a parent or a friend or a family member, whatever. Those waves, as the heart is shut down, in the, that's just the reaction, because it's a match to that person that is creating the imprint that is projecting onto the child, and it just matches in that. It matches what is going on in them, because first we are empathic, and then we close down, but then it's a mechanism of its own. Then we become a match. It resonates. It goes into resonance. And as the heart closes, I'm not talking about closing all. When it closes, it just contracts. And then that perfect embeddability, that it is compromised. is compromised, and not all waves coming from that energy can be embedded and can find their way back home to God, find their way back home and be completely reconciled and be completely liberated and remembered, those waves back into the whole. And so they're like, now they're in the system, these breakable waves, these dissonant waves, they're not in harmony with the soul that is living in unity consciousness. The soul is in unity consciousness, where it is not the part of the soul that is not identified with this story of the body. So that's the part of us that leaves the body in death. So it's like what we call the soul. But what is alive here in the body and what is identified is, of course, also the soul. It's just identified as the human, and so we call it the human. So that's energy that cannot be reconciled in the system, and so it's held stuck. It's being it's like damage control. It's similar to when we ingest a toxin that cannot be processed through the body without doing harm to the body. So then the body wraps it up, packs it away somewhere until it has the ability to move it out with the least amount of damage that it will cause. So it's like the body's intelligent gauges, like, okay, now what is better what is better for the body? For us to pack it away, and we use, of course, to pack it away, it needs energy, and in a lot of cases, let's say, for example, in the case of table salt, which is just two elements, this is a very highly fragmented, refined, toxic, not toxic, it creates damage, because usually it's a molecule between 64 and 84 elements that is whole within itself and intelligent, and then the body can use all those minerals. But if you rip it apart and you just rip out two minerals, these are not intelligent. They're looking for home, they're looking for themselves, and they wreak havoc as they do. It's very aggressive because it's totally in fear. These two elements, they're like lost. And when we ingest them, the body uses cell water, wraps it in cell water and packs it away for the damage control, and waits until then, for example, there is a time when the situation, when the climate, in the body is beneficial, like, okay, now we can move it out, and it's going to be, it always gauges what is safer, to keep it and store it away, or to move it out. What is going to be better for the body? And that's the body's intelligence that will weigh these options. And it's the same thing on an emotional level. It's the same thing with these toxic emotions, or with the emotions that they are toxic because they come from a closed heart. They come from based in fear, because they're based in the sensation of separation, and whatever negative emotion and story has spun from that. So it is an aggressive, toxic energy that the body doesn't know in the moment of the heart closing. These waves, the body can't reconcile it, so they get packed away. So just in the same way a toxin would be. So these emotions, they get stored, and it is an energy current. It is the same thing like an energy current, and they get stored, but they also, over time, if they can't come back into the flow, just like with the toxins, if it builds up and it festers, because all emotions need to flow, and keeping them locked away takes energy. It takes energy from the body. However, at the same time, we will first bump up against it. It'll first be triggered in our experience when, that again, it's part of a greater intelligence, when we are ready to reconcile it. And even if we're not ready to reconcile it 100%, we are ready to reconcile it partially, bit by bit. And so when we're ready again to take another bit of that energy back home, to bring it back into our hearts, then we will bump up against it. Then we will encounter a trigger of that, trigger of negative emotion, something negative, something we don't like in our situation. So now I go back to when I thought, hey, this is actually something good, that I got disappointed because that's what I want. I want to realize all the illusions that I'm still holding on to unconsciously. So then what I did was, I no longer thought about the person and the story that was triggering this feeling inside of me of disappointment and disgust. I just felt the emotions that were so clear of disappointment and disgust, knowing that this is something within me, and somewhere I felt that way about myself, and that is still being held in my system. And then it was like, wow, this is showing itself that it is an illusion, that I think about that I'm projecting it onto the other person, and I'm thinking the other person is that way. That's the illusion. Coming back to the truth, oh, I feel that way about myself. And then I come into this, oh, it's a positive thing. It's a good thing. I'm glad it was triggered. I'm glad I can get connected with this part of me that I've been holding within me. So it's a positive thing. And immediately when I recognize that it's a positive thing, I'm open to it, and I am ready. I can sit there with that feeling of disgust, and interestingly, it will also go in cycles. So I feel the disgust, I feel the disappointment, and then it's like, oh, it's a good thing, and then I open up and I receive it, and immediately it feels good, and I stay with it. And then I say, well, I repeat. Is there, how do I feel about that person? I repeat it. And then the story comes again. I allow it to be triggered. And if there's anything left, it'll be triggered again. So, and again, I felt, there's more. Yes, there's more disgust and disappointment. And again, I sit there, good. It's like, I want it, I'm welcoming it. I'm welcoming it because I know what's going on. So that was feeling good. And then I thought, hey, I want to make a video about it because this is so good. Yeah, so that's, so to speak, I wouldn't say it's a practice, it's not a practice to me. It happens because of understanding how things work. It's like, I don't know if this is a good example, but let's say it's winter time, it's cold, and the heater isn't working. And you know what's wrong with the heater. You're going to go and fix the heater. As soon as you remember, oh, it's cold because the heater isn't working, and oh, the heater isn't working because this and that, then you're going to go and fix the heater. It's only when you don't remember this and you're just like, it's cold and the heater isn't working. Oh, this is just terrible. And then you get caught, then you stay in that. But once you understand what's going on, you're just naturally going to go and I don't really like the word fix the problem, but It's like getting to the bottom of it and healing it. Yeah. So